Oh, I need to think of a cold open. I need to think of like a joke. There aren't too many jokes from Shadows for Silence, are there?
Why don't you just do like a Threnody joke?
I don't have any of those.
So if you were from Threnody, what would your name be?
Anxiety Gorman. How about you? I mean, like
In world.
in world, yeah.
In world. I don't know. Do you get to choose your name at a certain age, or the name is just your parents give you?
Because we see, well, we can save this further. They have given names. They're just very Puritan. They're about they're very virtues or penitence. Penitence would be a good one for me too. Now I think about it. Penitent Gorman. What do you think?
I believe I was Fluffy as a baby.
Fluffy.
I was big and fluffy.
Oh, okay. I don't see it, but that's all right. Well, hello and welcome to Cosmere Casual, your casual reader's guide for the Cosmere Curious. I'm your co-host and penitent Nick Gorman.
Is that really what we're going to use as our cold open?
We didn't do any prep work for this episode other than reading, and it's been a very eventful week. Okay, it's been a few weeks.
You don't have to tell everybody everything.
It's been a very eventful few years. It all started, I think, at 9/11. What's your name?
My name's AJ Gorman, your other co-host.
Okay, yeah. AJ Gorman will regret this podcast eventually.
Yeah.
That would be your.
That would be my name.
That would be your Threnodite name. And today we're doing our Cosmere Connections episode for the short story Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell. It's a short book. It's a short story. So this is probably not going to be too long of an episode, but that's okay because neither one of us did our homework. We didn't make notes. I've got my little Kindle right over here with my little highlights beside me. Why are you shaking your head? We might have figured out video recording by this point, but there's such a lag between when we record and when we publish that we haven't actually finished editing any of the ones where we talked about that before. So maybe be patient with us. I know I just said that I don't have notes, but I do have a rough outline. Do you want to talk about what we want to talk about?
Sure.
You give me a look. All right. Because the events and people in Shadows for Silence don't really show up elsewhere, but
at least yet.
Yeah, that's right. But we know a little bit more about the magic system, especially the shades, and how we can dive into how those work, because they do show up elsewhere in the Cosmere. And then I wanted to also dive in just a little bit more on sort of like the background, the inspiration, and maybe like an Easter egg or two.
Okay.
So,
can we contextualize this a little bit?
Sure.
In the Cosmere, so this is in the middle of the Cosmere timeline.
Yes.
So it is pre-Stormlight Archive. Do
we know that?
That is what Coppermind is telling me.
Okay, fair enough. So somebody knows. Somehow there's enough there. I was about to say, because the only, in text references are, we know that the Shard Ambition was splintered before the events of this book, right? And we know that from Arcanum Unbounded, the preface.
Mm-hmm. I say preface, so anyways.
Whatever.
But you wanted to start off talking about the magic system and shades.
Yeah, and magic system, I think, is maybe strong word. The more fantastical elements of the story, though, being the shades, where the 3 rules that are explained, I think, over and over again, they are, there's no running after dark, right? There's no spilling blood, and there's no fire, right? And I think in the postscript in Arcanum Unbounded, Brando Sando talks about how he drew inspiration for the things that strictly observant Jews are not supposed to do on the Sabbath. So it sort of fits in with the vibe of the setting is supposed to be very strictly religious. The names are all inspired by Puritan names, like silence or patience, things like that. I don't know. I thought it was a nice vibe, but maybe nice is the wrong word.
My struggle is that we have seen shades and Threnodites in other stories of the Cosmere, and I feel like every time we come across them, the shades are different.
That's right. They always follow rules, but the rules are a little different in each world, it seems.
Yes, which is just massively confusing to me. And it's very frustrating. Because I can't get a handle on it.
Well, it just means, I like it. I like that.
Of course you would.
Of course I love that.
What are you looking up now?
No, I'm just refreshing on the intro preface that in Arcanum Unbounded.
Oh. Okay.
Because there's things in here that hint about future stories that will be set on Threnody, right? Where they talk a little bit about the history of the world, where there was apparently some sort of magic system on Threnody before Ambition was splintered by
Okay, so when you say future books, the books that will be written in the future, but probably will tell the story of something before the events of this book.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what sort of storylines Brando P. Money's got planned for Threnody, but in the preface in Arcanum Unbounded, they talk about a magic system existing on Threnody before Ambition was splintered by Odium. I don't think, other than the Shades, which is, that's hardly like a magic system in the sense that people using supernatural powers to do superhuman things. It's more like, oh, this monster is going to get you. The ghosts are going to get you. Right?
Well, which makes sense because this was written for non-Cosmere audiences.
Right. But I wonder if in a book that hasn't been written yet, if we'll see a little bit more about a magic system that hasn't been explored yet, right? The other thing that definitely seems to make that seems to be more like a deliberate seed planted for a future story is that there's 2 continents on Threnody, as explained in this essay I keep referring to. The larger one had been inhabited for a while, but then, and the smaller continent was mostly covered by the Forest of Hell, which had all the shades, had all the dangerous stuff, and it wasn't really well inhabited. At some point, the larger continent got taken over by something called the Evil, which is, it's described as a creeping darkness, a terrible force that consumed the entirety of the continent, feasting upon the souls of men. And we don't know how much of that is metaphoric or literal. But the people, the Threnodites, fearing the evil, left that bigger continent and went to live in hell instead, because that was more palatable. I think there was give me a look.
I'm still trying to absorb. It's such a short story, but it's...
Well, but we know that
there's so much to try to understand.
Right. And we know that that same driver for people, going to live among the shades in hell, that's also the same driver between the Threnodites leaving for Canticle in the Sunlit Man, as they were fleeing the evil. And
yes, and it's, which is primarily the reason why I feel like we come across Threnodites most commonly.
Yes.
In the Cosmere.
Right. And we also know that Chris's...
what is it called? The Diaspora?
Diaspora?
Diaspora.
There you go. Yeah. So there's some kind of Threnodite diaspora going on, and the evil is supremely scary. Nobody will talk about it. It's only the evil, and but the shades are scary enough that they strike fear into the hearts of the Irie in Secret History when they're like, I think I saw a kind of shadow. Could it be a shade? Right.
Which is weird. Because because in this story we don't see them like the only thing captured shade we see is Silence's grandmother trapped in a closet.
Well, I think it's less about captured shades and more about a shade on the loose, and then what are you going to do to anger it, especially if the rules are maybe not all that concrete.
But in other stories, in Sunlit Man, they keep shades in a container.
That's true.
And then in the end note, and then the end note, or whatever, at the end of the story, we also see shades stuck on a ship.
And the Night Brigade also uses shades. The Night Brigade is also mostly Threnidites.
Right.
Yes. But there's something special about the Night Brigade where they've got like a silvery chain, and that is somehow magical, and I think it's somehow related to the shades.
Yeah, and so...
But we haven't, other than seeing silvery chains associated with Threnody, we don't know the details yet of how those work.
Yes. However, so there are lots of things that are in common on all the worlds on the Cosmere, some kind of universal laws and stuff. And silver is one of those elements that negates,
I think,
investiture.
We talked about this a little bit in the Hero of Ages.
Well, it's worth bringing up again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but it's confusing because sometimes characters will describe a metal as silvery, which is not the same as it actually being silver, right? But in Shadows for Silence and in Tress, they talk about silver and its properties, and they do mean silver. And it disrupts investiture, the magic, in a different way than aluminum does, right?
Well, aluminum blocks, whereas silver negates, disrupts,
destroys,
reverses sometimes.
Yeah, like in this book, we see silver being used to kill shades.
And revive.
Revive Silence and William Ann. And in Tress and the Emerald Sea, we see silver used to kill spores, aether spores.
Yeah.
Whereas aluminum just contains them and renders them inert, right?
Yeah. So we see silver here. We see in Tress, and then we start to see a little bit of silver in Stormlight and Mistborn a little bit. Is that true?
We saw silver in Hero of Ages. I don't know if we've seen silver in Stormlight yet. We've seen things described as silvery, but those were actually, later called Ralkalest, which is their name for aluminum.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where it's like, is it silver? Is it silvery, Brando? But and that's sometimes it's because he's writing from a character's point of view, and the character doesn't know that there's a difference, doesn't care, has bigger.
Well, a lot of metals look silvery.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I'm just saying that it seems like Threnody had been pretty far along in Cosmere knowledge. Do we know if this was a planet that was populated pre-shattering? Because it seems like it would have been.
I don't know, but it does seem like the Threnodites have knowledge of Adonalsium in general, right? Where we see a Threnodite in the Sunlit Man named Adonalsium will remember our plight eventually, which is, I think, objectively the funniest name in the Cosmere. Scoot's up there, but
only because Brandon made him a character that you would say his name a lot.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, I'm
He's
sure
having way too much fun with that.
I love. Well, and it comes up on the Reddits and things where somebody makes a dumb post about especially something that's absurdly horny or whatever, and then the top comment is always, Ad nauseam was right to abandon us. All, hyphens in between.
Oh, right, because that was the other one.
Yeah. So, stuff like that. But
just really feeling that name today. Good.
Yeah. Anyway, where was I going with that? But even in this book, there are references to the god beyond, which it's not clear if that is a different religion that is common across worlds in the Cosmere, or if God Beyond is Ad nauseam.
Where have we seen God Beyond before?
It's we've seen people swear by the God Beyond. I think in Mistborn. We've definitely seen it. The heralds swear by the God Beyond in Rhythm of War, I believe. Are you looking it up here? Yeah, but I mean, I know we've seen it in other places in the Cosmere, and it's not necessarily the same thing.
You're right. It's been worshipped on multiple planets.
Yep. Speaking of Rhythm of War and Easter eggs,
hold on. Oh. So mentions of this religion are on Scadrial, with Wayne and Lessie.
Oh, okay.
On Roshar, Horde refers to the God Beyond. When talking with Shalon. I feel like I just reread that, and that's why it was like sticking in my brain.
Anyway.
It was mentioned on Canticle, on Cell.
Cell? Oh,
it is referred to as unknown god by the My Pawn.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, okay, so that's the Emperor's Soul.
Yep, and silenced with Threnody. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So that's something. The other thing that was an Easter egg was, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but Silence makes a passing reference to what if the deepest ones get her, right? To when William Ann is separate from Silence out in the forest.
The deeper ones.
The deepest ones, which it could just be boogeymen kind of deal. It seems like it's different from the shades.
Maybe there's different levels of shades.
Or we know that Odium has passed through here, and we know that there are fused in, especially Rhythm of War, but in the Stormlight Archive series, we know that there are fused who are who have Odium's power, who are called the deepest ones. So I wonder if are all the fused on Roshar, could some of them have been left behind? I don't know.
We need more stories.
Yeah, I mean, he only puts out a couple of books a year, right?
That's only one this year.
Okay, but it's a big one
that I'm not ready for.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I think, are there any other Easter eggsy things that I wanted to talk about?
We should probably just mention that there's no Hoyd.
Oh, that's right. There's no Hoyd in this book. It's a short story. Meh.
I know, but you're always looking. He's like, where's Waldo? Like, where's Hoyd in the story? Because he's not always mentioned by name. He's not always a big part of it. But there's normally like a passing mention of him or something, and there's like just nothing.
A Stan Lee cameo in a Marvel movie,
right? And there's nothing.
Yep. Yeah. But I think that's all I got for us today. I guess, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with Cosmere connections to or from Shadows for Silence?
No, because it doesn't make sense in my brain yet, because every time we see the Shades and Threnodites, it feels like the rules are being rewritten.
Well, okay, so what do you remember what the rules were in Sunlit Man? I mean,
they could actually talk to the Shades.
They could talk to the Shades, and it didn't seem to matter if
they asked them for advice, and like they fabricated things, and like there's none of that here.
But they also kept them within like an aquarium looking thing, right? Because you wouldn't want to go in there, or like if there was a breach in the containment, oh Jesus Christ, or oh ad nauseam, oh God beyond, right?
All right.
So they were still.
And then you have Naz's comment in Secret History where they're like, like it was even more of a like religious rite to become a shade.
Well, to become a cognitive shadow.
A cognitive shadow. But are shades not cognitive shadows?
They're a type of cognitive shadow.
Right.
And
So
he was talking about cognitive shadows in general, and I feel like.
But like we didn't see a whole lot of like religion and rites and stuff in Shadows for Silence.
No, but it did seem like you had to be. I don't think that any of the people that Silence killed became shades. I thought it was just the ones who were eaten by other shades.
But I don't know. Is that part of it?
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know. Like I feel like we have a bunch of different puzzle pieces that don't connect yet. Like we're missing the pieces that connect the other pieces together.
There's a 1,000-piece puzzle, and we've maybe got like 20. Right.
And none of them connect. Like they all get different colors on them.
No, that's why we've got a podcast.
But
yeah, right now we're not really helping on this one, right? Huh?
No.
That's all right. The next thing we're gonna read and record about will be The Way of Kings, which is the first book in the Stormlight Archive. We'll do more
That's a
than
good one. That's a good one.
We might be biased because we like his series enough to do a podcast about them, but I feel like pretty much anything that Brando Sando writes, like we gotta grade it on a curve because otherwise it would all be like 9s and 10s out of 10. Anyway, we're gonna do more than our normal 3 episodes for the Stormlight Archive, just because those books are so chunky.
Okay,
well, thanks for podcasting with me, dear.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for listening to our podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or comments, our email address is cosmerecasual@gmail.com. We're also on Reddit, u/cosmerecasual. Instagram, I think, Cosmere Casual. Just whatever. Just reach out. Our intro and outro music is licensed through Tribe of Noise. The artist is Ketsa, and the song is Odyssey. And
until next time, keep your wits about you.